when you walk into a room, do people gravitate towards you or away from you?
Right.
Dude, 23 years ago, I stepped off my first big stage. About 9,000 people. And she asked me this question. This is what I wrote my first book on. It's really been my journey for 20 plus years. She said, Ken, do you want to be significant or do you want to be successful? This year, and he goes, what are your goal? What's your goal this year? I said, dude, I want to make $1 million. And he leaned across the table and put his hand on my knee. He's Persian. And he put his hand on my knee. He goes, a month or a week? Get in rooms with people who think bigger than you do. And it's that great leaders want something for people, not from people.
Think about what you can do to lead with value, exactly what Ken's talking about, because that's been my secret sauce.
You should look up in his 6 months. 6 months later, look back on the version of you 6 months before and go, dude, I didn't have a clue.
Welcome to the show, Ken.
What's up, my friend?
I'm so thankful and grateful that you made the trip and are here today.
Man, I wouldn't miss it for anything in the world. We've had some amazing talks already before we even hit record, which I think they might have been recording this already.
I hope they were recorded because you're right. So many good conversations happen before the green light turns on.
Don't they? That yes. And then when you're done, it's like the best conversations. I just posted a video on my Instagram about me and Greg Reed from 3 years ago after an Instagram Live. And he said, dude, come to my house.
I love Greg Reed.
Dude,
I went to his house to play games the other day.
Yeah.
He beat me, but
He talks a little trash on chess, I guess, doesn't he?
He does. So fun fact, Greg Reed beat me 2 out of 3 in live chess.
Yeah.
But he has since sent me, I forgot the name of the digital game on the phone
version.
But
right.
on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm, hey Greg, I'm up 2 games to 1 on the telephone. So
He's
coming
great.
at you, Greg. But no, he beat me in shooting and frisbee golf, and we played. I beat him in clean dirty. He's got a whole bunch of fun little. I love Greg.
He is. I get accused of being 15 years old a lot. Greg probably gets accused of being 15 more than I do. So,
yes, but I honestly, when I launched this show and I made my list, you were one of the first 3 people I said, I've got to get Ken out here because your event that I was at when we got to first hang out. So we first met through a friend, Scott, and I was on your podcast. It was cool. It was virtual, but I didn't get to really know the Ken.
Yeah.
Then when I came out to Scottsdale and got to speak at, I think it was one of your first events.
Yeah, one of my first live boot camps.
Yeah.
About 50, 55 people in Scottsdale with some really good friends of mine.
It was an awesome experience, but I fell in love with you as a human being there, just your message, your theme. And as I mentioned to you offline, the show is based on success formulas. My audience is trying to understand how successful people are successful, and I believe it's formulaic. I think that I follow a formula no matter what I do. Having watched you crush it in real estate, crush it with the podcast, crush it with GSD. Obviously, I don't know if the word pastor and crushing it should go together, but impact so many and affect so many with your words and how you speak and what you've done. You clearly have a success formula. And so my goal today is to just talk to you and let that come out to the audience.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. People ask me all the time. I get 2 main questions. How do you get around the people you get around? Like we're talking offline about just all the mutual friends we know and the people. I brought one of my best friend here today with me, Master Jeff. He's got like 1.4 million followers on Instagram. Forbes magazine did a whole spread on him they call him the Tony Robbins of Persia. He does huge events overseas. It's like $20K a seat. It's 2.5 days, and he's the only speaker. He speaks like 15 hours a day.
Wow.
On tapping into your inner potential. The people I get to spend time with, dude, literally every day I wake up and I'm like, I pinch myself. I'm like, are you kidding me? And people say, Ken, how do you get around those people? And this has really been, dude, if I had one message, man, if God said, Ken, you got 6 months and that's it, and you had one message to go around the world and teach, preach, talk about, what would it be? And it's that great leaders want something for people, not from people.
Great leaders want something for people, not from people.
Not from people. And I'm telling you, man, when you get, it's why when you get around people like us, Carlos Reyes, Anthony Trucks, Sharon Lecter, we just talking about Greg Reed. When you get around some of the people that we get to spend time with and do life with, it is so, I get goosebumps, dude. It's so relational. Nobody's looking for a transaction to take place. And when transactions take place, they're just organic in nature. They just happen.
Yeah.
And, again, if I had one thing, it's great leaders want something for people, not from people.
Well, and it's funny you say that because when I launched this show, originally, my thought was, okay, how can I add value to my audience? How can I help them? But you know what's honestly been the case? I've learned more from my friends and guests that I've gotten the privilege of talking to. I leave inspired, motivated, focused, dedicated. I mean, I leave and my brain's like, it's just a flood of knowledge for me. I get to spend now this time with you, and I get to ask you all these fun questions that I could do it in our friendship. I could just call you. But here, through this platform, this channel, I get to ask you these incredible questions and see the real Ken and what goes to make you successful. And like what you just said, real leaders want something for people, not from people. The way you say that and articulate it, I mean, it's fascinating to me.
You know, we live in such a transactional world. We live in like this social media world, Instagram, and me and you know it well. It's like people, you literally can present almost a false reality of who you are. But when you get around somebody, and I ask people this all the time, when you walk into a room, do people gravitate towards you or away from you? Like, do people want to be, do they want to interact with you? And when you interact with somebody, I call them life-giving people. Like if Jeff Fenster calls my phone or Dave Meltzer or any of the friends that we have in common, I want to pick the phone up. I'm like, dude, I can't wait to see what Jeff has. What's going on? Tell me how everybody's going. Tell me what you're doing with Shaq. Tell me all the stuff you got. If Dave calls or Sharon calls or any of the people that we know, I'm like, dude, I want to pick the phone call. I want to take that. But we all have those people on our phone. When we see it, we're like, And we send that bad boy to voicemail. We flip it face down on the table. And I think the number one thing I gather champions. I have got so many amazing people in my life. They really are champions. And it starts with wanting something for them, not from them. And it starts with, yesterday, we're at Tracy Dews, my really good friend, her book launch party last night. Tracy spoke at Create last year, crushed it. She's been on Dropping Bombs with Brad and some other people, and she's doing some really amazing things. Last night we're there, and the Holstein Water CEO and his mom are there, and I'm thinking, dude, you got to know Jake Carls. My buddy, who I met through Dave Meltzer. Yep. Jake's the CEO of Midday Squares in Canada. I'm like, dude, you guys got to meet. I literally picked my phone up and text both of them, said, Jake, meet Alex. You guys need to know each other. You're doing different businesses, but a lot of the same things that you're doing on distribution, you guys got to know each other.
You just made a deposit for two human beings.
I'm like, when I get around people and I meet people, I'm instantly thinking like, who does Jeff need in his life right now? I told you Erwin McManus, who's a mutual friend of both of ours, called me a couple weeks ago. We were on the phone for about 35 minutes, and he was sharing some things, and I'm like, dude, you need to know this person. And I'm literally picked the phone up, boom, Erwin meets so-and-so, boom, and then you guys have got to connect. Yeah. I'm constantly thinking through, who does Jeff need? Who does Erwin need? Who does Sharon need to know? Who are the people that you need in your life that I know, and how can I add value to what you're doing?
And that's so powerful when you're trying to build relationship capital. As those who are listening to this and going, I don't know enough great people, think about what you can do to lead with value, exactly what Ken's talking about, because that's been my secret sauce. I get asked that question too, like, how do I get the opportunity to have Ken Joslin come all the way to San Diego to come in my podcast studio when you're such a busy guy?
Yeah.
But the difference is, what you just said is, if you lead with value, people want to come. They want to help because they look at you, and I think you use do people get attracted to you when you walk in the room? It's ways that we do that in life. It doesn't always have to be what's in it for me. It's how can I help you? And if I help enough people, you know what happens? A rising tide lifts all boats.
I was about to say my favorite Zig Ziglar quote is, if you help enough people get what they want, eventually you're going to get what you want.
That's right.
Dude, 23 years ago, I stepped off my first big stage. About 9,000 people. I had to speak behind John Maxwell. That's the third time I've done that. I told John at my conference, John's opened my conference up 2 years in a row. I'm like, dude, I'm never speaking behind you again. You suck all the oxygen out of the room. I mean, dude, you get up on stage behind John Maxwell and you can keep an audience's attention, you're doing something.
Yes, you are.
But my mentor spoke behind me 23 years ago.
Who's your mentor?
Jeannie Mayo. She was one of this. I was in youth ministry. Obviously, this was a pastors and leadership conference. My good friend Ron Luce, it was his thing. I think there were 60,000 people there, and then they had the leadership summit was part of it. And there was about 9,000 pastors, leaders there, and John spoke right before me. And Jeannie said, hey, you want to do lunch tomorrow? I said, sure. And so we go do lunch the next day, and she sits me down and she asked me this question. This is what I wrote my first book on. It's really been my journey for 20 plus years. She said, Ken, do you want to be significant or do you want to be successful? Well, she said, because they're two vastly different things.
That's a heavy question.
And I was 32. I just walked off stage. I'm in front of 8,800 people, and I'm behind John. Are you kidding me? Like, I thought I hung the moon.
Yeah, you thought you were significant and successful.
I'm in ministry. I'm crushing it. I'm speaking at all the big. I have my own big conference, and I thought I was doing something really cool. And when Jeannie looked at me that day in Pontiac, Michigan, and said, "Do you want to be significant, or do you want to be successful?" It was an eye opener for me, and it really led me on this journey to understand that significant leaders build others around them. Understanding that when they do and they help others around them become the best version of themselves, it does enact that Zig Ziglar quote, help enough people get what they want. Eventually you get what you want. But people who chase success leave a trail of damage behind them.
Well, my view on chasing is you chase things, it runs. You chase money, you chase an opposite sex, you chase success, you chase a dream. It's just going to run from you. You got to attract.
And that's you working on you becoming the best version of yourself.
That's right.
It absolutely works. But that conversation 23 years ago probably saved me from a lot of heartbreak.
So how did you answer the question?
I said significance. I knew it was the right answer. I didn't know why.
Did you believe it, or did you just
No. I just know I knew the right answer. I mean,
because sometimes we don't know in the moment.
I wasn't a dummy. I knew significance was the right answer, but I didn't understand why. And I'm 54 years old now. I'll be 55 in August. In every probably 6 months, I tell people all the time, you should look up in this 6 months. 6 months later, look back on the version of you 6 months before and go, dude, I didn't have a clue.
That's right.
I've done that. It's just been this repeated cycle in my life for the last 30 plus years.
Well, that self-reflection, that mirror moment that you're talking about, that is so powerful as a self-growth tool because it allows you to course correct. It's like if I tell you to meet me in a location and that location is across the country and you don't put it in your map, sure, you might head east if you're in San Diego knowing, okay, I'm going to get there, but you could end up in New York or Miami.
Yeah.
But if you have that mirror moment, you can know, am I even heading in the right direction?
Which is why relationships are so important. I mean, I've got a text thread with 6 guys in it. Gary Brecka, partners with Grant Cardone, top biohacker in the world. Our text thread this morning, literally for the last 24 hours, just blown up. I usually start it every day. I get up at 4 a.m. through the week. I usually start it with my quiet time or whatever worship song. I'll send it to the group, and then, boy, here we go. It's just all day long. Gary Brecka, Randy Garn, Randy, best-selling author on the board with Tony Robbins, the most connected human being I've ever been around. He knows everybody. Like, Randy makes me look like I don't know anybody, and I know everybody. Randy Garn, my good friend Brian Covey, who's the senior vice president of Revolution Mortgage, about $5 billion, I think, last year they did. My best friend, Master Jeff, who's here, who looked across the table at me. We're at his house in Calabasas this year, and he goes, "What's your goal this year?" I said, "Dude, I want to make $1 million." And he leaned across the table and put his hand on my knee. He's Persian. And he put his hand on my knee. He goes, "A month or a week?" I said, No, dude, you don't understand. I said, "Here's my goal, 50, 100, 50, 100, 500, and 1,000. Those are my numerical goals in GSD. 50 people in my mastermind, 100 people in my community, 500 people at both my create conferences, 1,000 of my courses sold. That's 5.192 million. I want to make $1 million." He leans across the table, puts his hand on my knee again. He goes, "A month or a week?" I was like, oh my, okay, I got you, bro. But let me catch up to the $1 million a year, and then I'll get to the $1 million. But you have to have those kind of people. I've got him, Brent Go, one of the top guys at EXP, 29,000 agents in his organization, about 1.2 million a month in rev share. Who else have I got? Vic Keller, sold 11 companies to Buffett, was Mr. B's CEO for Berkshire Hathaway Automotives for 3 years. Now he owns 17 companies. I think he's the active chair for 9 of them. Who else am I missing? Brent Randy. I may have to look at my phone. Brent Randy. Yeah, there's 6 guys. I'm trying to even think of who the last couple of guys are, but it's just it's an unbelievable group of guys that if I ever have to make a big decision, or if I'm ever ready to go, you know what, Create Conference 1 isn't enough. Now we're going to do one in Dallas. Who do I want? I want Brendan Bouchard. Which we have Brendan locked in, by the way.
Congrats.
And we're going to give Brendan's growth day. He just finished the one in Austin, Texas. Next year, everybody who comes to Create, we're going to give them a ticket to go to growth day for free. So we're doing a partnership with Brendan.
Awesome.
Well, that happened through Randy. I picked the phone up and said, "Randy, here's what I want to do. Here's my vision. Here's my dream. What do you think?" And Randy goes, "Dude, let me get Brendan on a call. Let's make this happen." Mm-hmm. So you have to have those types of relationships to be able to. The first conversation I ever had with Grant Cardone 3 years ago, October of 2019, He looked at me. He's like 5'5", he's a little dude, and he looked at me, put his finger in my face. We're in a private conversation. He goes, what do you want? What are you here for? And I said, Grant, I'm here to blow the lid off my mindset of what's a lot of money. Man, I want to help people that want to do ministry, do it and not have the burden of wondering where the finances are going to come to be able to plant churches and do what they want to do. And he looked at me, he goes, dude, I'll help you if you'll let me. I said, okay. And that was one of the first relationships 3 years ago that was like, aha, game changer moments. And they just constantly lift me and challenge what I'm believing myself for. $1 million a month, or $1 million a week.
Sure.
Like, it's a constant challenge.
Hey guys, I just want to take a second and thank you so much for listening and supporting our show. If it has brought you any value at all, please leave us a review and give us some feedback. We would love to hear about it. Now, back to the show.
I mean, I think what you're saying is so important because we all go through that in our journey. Mm-hmm. I remember the first time I ever made $1 million, it was my goal for years and years and years. Since I was a kid, I'm going to make $1 million. You know, that's like this big round number, you know? And it was like 2014. And I remember I looked at my income and I'm like, I made $1 million. And I thought I was going to be the happiest guy in the world. And I wasn't.
Yeah.
Because the dollar amount, number one, it wasn't the dollar amount. It was that I didn't feel fulfilled on my potential. Mm-hmm. And it's not just a money thing. The money allows, like I learned this from David Meltzer, my mentor as well, that I need to make as much money as I can so I can help as many people as I want to and impact what I want to do. Mm-hmm. If you don't make enough money, it's like the best analogy is the airplane. The little yellow things pop down. Put your mask on before you help somebody else, because if you're not taken care of and you don't have the resources, you can't give back.
Yeah.
And I remember that day going, I'm not happy. I'm not even close to fulfilled. And one of my other mentors said, because your potential is not $1 million. $1 million was just a stepping stone on your potential. And it's not just money. It's not just quantifiable by money. Yeah. Have bigger goals, set bigger aspirations. And I think, you know, when Master Jeff touched you on your knee, he's probably trying to give you that same advice, which is
it's exactly what
Ken,
he did.
$1 million a week?
Yeah.
And when you hit that, it's going to be a day or an hour.
Yeah. But I mean, you get around those guys and you think big.
Yes.
And then the moment I walk into your studio today, I'm like, oh crap, I got to step it up. That's exactly what I'm thinking. I'm asking, okay, Jeff, hey, how much was this wall? And what was the budget for this? Like, as soon as I walk in, I'm like, oh my gosh, dude, I'm not dreaming big enough. Like, I've got to dream bigger. And listen, those of you guys watching, listening to this podcast, like, you've got to get around people. I have a quote in my GSD planner. For a year and a half after I met Grant in October 2019, I wrote in my 10X planner every single day. My goals twice a day. And then I took Grant's planner, I put it on steroids, goals, gratitude, affirmations, top 3 every morning, 1% better, wins, goals the second time, and a scoreboard the second half of the day. And then on the bottom right-hand corner of every page, I put this quote: get in rooms with people who think bigger than you do. Dude, the more you can put yourself, I just spoke at the Undercover Billionaire Boot Camp this weekend from the TV show that Discovery did that Grant was on. And my talk the last probably couple times, I was at UConn 2 weeks ago, was proximity is a cheat code. Mm-hmm. Like, remember the old, you ain't this old, but back in the day, it was cool this weekend because it was the first talk I've done. I'm like, how many of you guys know what Super Nintendo is? And they're like,
what do you mean I'm not that old? I'm 40. I grew up on Super Nintendo. I grew up on
Super
regular Nintendo.
You got the game.
I had Atari.
You had to blow in it because that's exactly right.
That was Nintendo 1, by the way.
Yes.
And you had to click.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
But when you played Contra,
oh, sure.
Yeah, me and my buddy would stay up all night long, and then somebody goes, hey, dude, if you go left, right, up, down, B, A, B, A, B. Select start, you got what?
Yes.
Unlimited lives. Are you kidding? Are you kidding me?
Yes.
Listen, proximity, relationships, it's a cheat code.
I think it was up, down, left, right.
Yeah. But it's a cheat code.
A, B, select, start.
And then the reality of it is, dudes, relationships are cheat codes. Every time I get around you, every time I get around Dave, every time when I come to Jeff's house in Calabasas and spend a couple, 2 or 3 days with him, when I get around this weekend at Undercover Billionaire Boot Camp, and I'm around Gary Brecken, I'm around Grant, and I'm around all these guys and all these friends that I have, Randy Garn, and it literally is, oh my gosh, I'm not thinking big enough.
Well, I learned this, how I'm going to articulate it, I learned from the Mathis twins when I had them on the show, but they have this saying, exposure leads to expansion. When you expose your mind to new things, it expands your mind and expands your capabilities, because it's like the 4-minute mile.
Yeah.
Until somebody did it, it was impossible. Now that one person did it, everyone can do it.
3 people broke it in a race not even 6 months after, in the same race.
Correct.
And scientists said it wasn't even physiologically possible for a human being to run a sub 4 minute mile.
That's how powerful the mind is.
It's crazy.
And that, I think, is one of the things that attracts me to want to hang out with guys like you. And why I'm so excited to have you here, and why I wanted to nurture our friendship is because when you're around big thinkers, it doesn't make my dreams feel small. It pushes me to go even further. I already think big from in my own head. But when I'm around guys like you, it makes me think bigger, and vice versa. And that's an attractive trait with friend groups. And that's why that group of 6 of you, you're pushing each other.
Bro, it is crazy. I remember we were at Brent's Build event in Dallas in August. And so Tony Robbins came in and spoke. Tony was the last guy that spoke. There's 4,400 agents, a lot of EXP agents, huge room. Obviously, I'm sitting on the front row. To my left is Jeff, Master Jeff. To my right's Gary Brecka, Sage, Brent, Kathy, Dean Graziosi, Randy Garn, and then the 2 billionaire Glens. Stearns from Undercover Billionaire, and then Glenn Sanford, who's the CEO of EXP. I'm sitting on the front row. And I look at these guys, and I grab Gary. I'm on one shoulder. I got my arm on Gary, and one of them I got on Jeff, and I went, dude, I do not belong on this row. I literally was like so blown away. And Tony is standing 2 feet away from me going crazy for 2 hours and 45 minutes. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, I get to be in this level of proximity. Like, you cannot not be successful. You cannot not make a difference and make an impact and leave people better than you found them and not help people become the best version of yourselves when you circle and surround yourself with that quality and caliber of human beings.
That's right. That's right. And I think what I want to dig into with you, because you've been a pastor for how many years?
15 out of the last 30.
15 of the last 30. And I think that trade, that craft, that mission in life is one of helping others, right? What led you to want to be a pastor?
Well, I gave my life to Christ when I was 25 years old, August of 1993. Didn't grow up in church, didn't know anything about church. First time I heard the gospel, I responded. And people ask me all the time, Ken, are you religious? I'm like, no, I'm not religious at all. Because there's a difference, because the difference between the religion and the gospel is this. Religion says if you do the checklist, A, B, and C, if I go to church, if I tithe, if I do the things I'm supposed to do, if I jump through enough hoops, God's going to be okay with me. And then the gospel says, man, when you understand what Jesus did for you, that he paid the price so that you could not afford to pay, and he paid it because he loves you. Like, when you understand that, what happens is it causes change on the inside of your heart. When your heart changes, it causes your outward expression and all of the actions and things you do to change. Religion says you change on the outside, God will love you enough on the inside. This year at Create Conference in Atlanta, it was our second one. John Maxwell opened up. I mean, we had Ed Milet, Jesse Isler, Randy Garn, Gary Brecka, my buddy Master Jeff, Amberly Lago, Marie Kosker. I mean, the lineup was insane. I had floor stickers, these 2 foot by 4 foot floor stickers all throughout the auditorium when you walked into the foyer for registration, and they were my quotes everywhere. Well, the first quote people saw when they walked in was a quote that I used to share every Sunday when I pastored. God's love for you isn't predicated on your performance. He loves you because he created you as a son or a daughter. What I do doesn't affect how much God loves me, good or bad. It's not like if I wake up today, we're actually shooting this on a Sunday. If I woke up and watched church, which I did this morning, if I didn't, he doesn't love me any less. He created me. No different than you do your kids or I do my 4 daughters.
Sure.
Like, there's nothing they can do to make me love them less.
Right.
And so that's what got me into full-time ministry, was just that understanding.
But the day before you heard gospel, August
20th, it'd be August 21st, 1993.
August 21st, 1993. The day before that, no gospel.
I had no idea. I had no idea who God was. I had no idea how much.
So what
he
made you
loved
listen to gospel the first time?
My next door neighbor was the student pastor at the church, and then one of my buddies I played softball with every weekend went to the same church. And they're like, dude, come hang out with us. I'm like, nah, it's not for me. Nah, it's not for me. Nah, it's not for me. And then finally they asked over and over and over, and I finally went. And the first time I heard, the pastor speak on the gospel, I understood. It was like, it was that aha moment. Scripture basically says that the Holy Spirit draws us. He reveals to us how much he loves us. And I realized for the first time ever, oh my God, you love me enough to send Jesus to take my place and die for me. And when that happened, it was that aha moment in my heart, and it opened up. It's like, okay, well, God, how could I not want to serve you? How could I not want to follow you? How can I not want to surrender who I am and what I'm going to do in the rest of my life to you because you did this for me? And when you make that exchange, 2 Corinthians 5:17 says, therefore, any man who is in Christ is a new creation. Old things have passed away. Behold, all things have become new. That day I became a brand new man. I mean, there was so much change that happened in my life, and it wasn't even change that I worked on. It wasn't like I tried to stop cussing or I tried to stop watching porn, or it was gone. The desire to do all of those things was gone. And it was an unbelievable moment, transformative moment in my life.
And were you married or single at the time?
Married. Yeah, I tell people I got married in 19, met my wife in 91, got married in 92. I got saved in 93, or I probably would have got divorced in 94. So yeah, it was a game changer for me.
And professionally, where were you before this?
I'd been in the Air Force for 4 years, got out. I was working computer operations and dispatch a truck at a feed mill in North Georgia. Mm-hmm. Had no idea what vision was, had no idea about core values or BHAGs or any of that. Gave my life to Christ, started teaching a Sunday school class in a Southern Baptist church in Northeast Georgia of a half a dozen kids. I grew up thinking about 40, 45. We planted a church. They said, you're the youth guy. And
Explain
I'm like,
planted the church.
We started a new church. We just started a new church from
That's called
from
planting
scratch.
the church.
Yeah, we planted a church. Just like you start a business, there's a huge movement right now around the country. It's been that way for 20 years about planting new churches. And it brings life into communities. And we planted a church, and they said, you're our youth guy. I'm like, I was the only option, right? Like, you're the guy. You grew a Sunday school class, you can do it. So here I am. I started a youth ministry with nothing. I had no idea what I was doing. And about 6 months or a year into it, I ran into my mentor, Ron Luce. He was doing these huge events called Acquire the Fire around the country. And we walked into this auditorium, about 12,000 students in Atlanta. And it was the first time God really spoke to my heart. And he said, this is what I want you to do. And so that day I walked out of that main session into a leadership session that Ron was doing with about 600 pastors. And he taught on mission statement, core values, and BHAGs, big, hairy, audacious goals. I never heard of any of that stuff in my life. That day I wrote down 3 years of vision. And I had one of those big at-a-glance planners, the big calendars with the big blocks. 3 years of vision. Everything but one thing came true in the next 3 years. I grew one of the largest youth ministries in America. We were making an unbelievable impact in our city. We grew from half a dozen kids to several hundred, 400 or 500 kids a week. Mm-hmm. We had come in a church of 600. Started doing my own National Youth Leadership Conference. That's when I started, garnering the attention of some of the top leaders in the world. And that's how I got on the stage, with Ron and John and those guys.
Which one didn't come true?
Hired my full-time worship pastor. That was it. It was the only one. The only one that didn't come through. Yep.
At that moment or ever?
It didn't. For there, it did not. And from there, I left. Actually, when I left there, I went to do motivational high school assemblies with a friend of mine who played in the NBA for a while. And we did that for a year. We spoke to 325,000 students around the country.
Talk about impact.
It was crazy, dude. It was crazy. I did that for a year. My wife at the time was like, okay, that's enough. I had a 3-year-old and maybe a 1-year-old. And she was like, you can't be gone Sunday through Thursday.
Every week
during the school year. And I was like, you're right. So I left full-time vocational ministry, called my best friend in Georgia and said, hey, dude, I need a job. He was one of the top mortgage brokers. He said, he brought me in his office. He said, here's the keys. Here's a Lexus. There's an office. Here's your first deal. Slid a 1008, which is a mortgage application, across the table. Said, I'll walk you through this first deal and you're on your own. Made $146,000 my first year. Didn't know mortgage. I didn't know anything. 2.5 years later, got a broker's license. Became one of the top mortgage brokers in Georgia for about 4 years until everything crashed in like 08, 09.
Yeah. And then, but you still do real estate.
I do, yeah. So I'm just residential commercial through EXP. I've got a guy who runs a team. I've got about 50 people under me at EXP right now. And so they're doing great. I help structure deals, or they've got an issue, they'll call me. Other than that, I'm building.
What states do you work in?
Georgia and Alabama.
Georgia and Alabama.
Yeah, Georgia and
Residential
Alabama.
commercial.
Residential commercial.
So what's your view on the real estate market right now?
Dude, it's crazy. We're putting offers in on houses in Georgia. We can't get them. We're literally seeing 13, 14, 15 offers again. It's almost like it was a year ago. So I think sometimes when you hear
even at these high interest rates,
it's crazy. I mean, okay, so I was a mortgage broker forever. My interest rate on my own house back in 2003, I bought, it's about a $500,000 house in a gated community. It's about $500,000. I think my rate was like 6 1/8. they're not that high.
Yeah.
We just came out of 2 and 2.5 and 2 and 5/8 and 2 and 7. Like, that's like insane.
But it's hard to go. You can't.
Yeah.
Exposure leads to expansion.
Right.
Going back,
That's
it's hard not to see that.
That's exactly right.
I remember the payments.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to buy a bunch of real estate right now, and
Yeah.
I remember my first house. I had a first and a second. It was back in the stated income or liar loans.
Yep.
07.
Yep.
And my first was like 5.5. My second was like 11,
Yeah.
and I was fine with it.
Yeah.
Now it's like 11.
Well, it's because you get used to, you get comfortable, and you get used to things. But I mean, right now we really the values really aren't. They've dipped a little bit, but not much. And literally, I talked to Chase and my team. We've got several clients we're working with, buyers agents right now, and we're trying to find places that we can actually buy that aren't either at list price or now we're even seeing them above list price.
So do you think the market's going to keep surging? You think we're?
I don't know that. I mean, it's not. There was a dip. There was definitely a dip for about 6 months, and this has all just happened in the last month. I mean, literally, I'm talking to him like, dude, I've taken this client out. We put X amount of offers in. We can't get them. And I even had him the other day. He called me. This was a VA loan, ex-military guy, and VA loans are historically harder to get, especially if you got multiple offers. They're harder because they take longer.
Sure. So sellers don't like them.
That's exactly right. Sellers are like, nah. So I said, listen, we need to get a good cover letter. Where did this guy serve? How did this guy serve? How's this going to affect his family if he gets his home? Like, those are the kind of things I do on the real estate side.
Yep.
Like, how can we
Emotionally connect?
How can we leverage ourselves and put our client in front of this seller to go? We did it last year. I had a guy whose daughter lived in the subdivision, and she had some medical issues, and his ex-wife lived in the same subdivision, and we actually were a few $1,000s less on the offer, and the sellers actually came to us and said, listen, we've got this offer on the table. We didn't even have an escalation clause. We've got this offer. We'd love for him to be in the subdivision with his ex-wife and the daughter. We know that would work for them, and if you can match this offer, we'll do it. Okay. And we close the deal.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I actually just closed on my first Georgia property in Athens.
Oh, come on, man.
Yeah.
Well, I've got a good agent in Georgia if you need somebody.
I'd love to talk to them because I'm actually just putting an offer on another one.
Yeah.
I'm trying to pick up some property,
Yeah.
long-term rentals in the South.
Athens is a great place.
Yeah, University of Georgia. I got 4 college students there. I'm going to fix it up a little bit, just put a new roof on it, and going to hopefully keep renting it to college
Chase, who
kids.
runs my team, lives 20 minutes from Athens.
Oh, nice. Well,
yeah.
where?
In Banks County. So Jefferson area. Jefferson's about 20, 25 minutes from there.
We're building a house in the Georgia, South Carolina border at Lake Hartwell.
Okay, so one of the agents I just brought on, Christy and Aaron, they were one of the largest they were the largest exit group in Atlanta. 49 agents. They just moved over under me at EXP, and they live on Lake Hartwell.
Do they really?
Yeah, they sure do.
What part? Do you know?
I don't know. I'd have to ask. They've got a house there, and they've got one down in right outside of Athens at the Ritz-Carlton place down there. I can't remember what the name of it is, but they're down there as well.
I'm learning the South. I'm
Yeah.
not quite there completely. So with your view of real estate, because I think that this is going to help a lot of listeners. If you're a first-time buyer, you're trying to break into real estate, is now the time or is now the time to wait?
I mean, I don't think you ever wait when you buy real estate. I wouldn't overpay for anything right now.
But how do you not? Well, let me pepper that because I think the struggle for a lot of people. I was here. I mean, I'm a beginner real estate guy.
Yeah.
I'm trying to do more because I'm around too many amazing people that crush it in real estate. And it's hard when you look at the prices because if you don't have the relationships already in real estate, you don't have wholesalers, you're not getting the calls from the pocket listings. You're going on Zillow and you're seeing a house that everyone already said no to, all the smart money said no to. It seems overpriced already or above maybe it's not fair for me to say overpriced, high price.
Right. Well, I mean, we are on the high. We still are on the high end of the market, and I don't know that you're going to see. I mean, because 07, 08 was a train wreck. You said liar loans.
Yes.
And it really wasn't even just the conventional loans. I mean, if you've seen the movie The Big Short.
I haven't.
That movie is phenomenal. It's about the guy in New York City who looked at all the loans and went, wow, you've got all these 3-1, 5-1 neg am loans coming due. So he shorted it and made billions. And we don't have that now because not a lot of those loans are available. Really what happened in 07, 08 was, and it wasn't even subprime because they blamed it on subprime. Listen, if you do a subprime loan, you're charging them 10% interest and your LTV is like 70%. So if they do go out, you're going to sell the house and get your money back or make money.
Sure.
Because, I mean, no bank they're not in the RE CFO business. They don't want any real estate. That's not what they're not real estate business. They're in the banking business. But I think now it's different because you're not going to have massive foreclosures and things like we did back in 07, 08. I just think you just have to be wise and find somebody. When you use an agent, I think it's 80%, high 70s, low 80% of all agents only do 2 to 3 transactions a year.
Seriously?
Oh yeah. Dude, so what you're seeing right now is, I told my team this the other day, is you're going to see a thinning out of real estate agents so even at Brent's Build event in August, Tony Robbins got to speak, and Tony, there are 4,400 of the top real estate agents in EXP. It's the fastest growing company in the world. Fastest growing real estate in the world, like 84,000 agents now. It's insane how fast it's growing. And Tony got up and he goes, those of you guys have been in real estate for the last 2, 3, 4 years, you literally have been shooting fish in a barrel. You can wake up at 10 and go to bed at 1 o'clock in the morning. You're going to make $100,000. You don't have to work hard now. And Tony said, you're not in a down market. You're in an average market. And he's right. This is an average real estate market. And so what I've been preaching and just really driving into my team is now's the time to build your base.
Yep.
Because you've got all the people that are like, oh, this is work. I don't like work. I have to work to get clients. I've got to work to make $100,000. They don't want to do that. Now's the time. It goes right back to what we talked about at the beginning of the podcast. Now's the time. Add value.
Yep.
Send them birthday cards. Send them handwritten cards. Call them once every 2 to 3 weeks. Hey, Jeff, this is Ken at the Ken Joslin team. Hey, just want to check if you're interested in the next 3 to 6 months on buying or selling any real estate, or if you know anyone, we'd love to be able to serve you and your family.
Yep.
Oh, Ken, man, okay, great, man. Listen, I'll touch base with you in a few weeks. And you got to work.
Hey, fitness fans, ready to crush your fitness goals? Make your move to EOS Fitness, where becoming a member starts at just $9.99 a month. Gyms are open 24/7 and packed with the latest gym equipment to keep your workouts fresh. What are you waiting for? Give them a call, drop by, or hit up jefffenster.com/EOS to join. EOS Fitness. Better gym, better price. Now, let's get after those goals. As an entrepreneur, I know how meaningful it is to invest in the people and causes that are close to me. And on GoFundMe, it's easy, safe, and powerful to do just that. Whether you're supporting a family member, friend, local business, or charity. And whenever you make a donation, you're protected by the GoFundMe Giving Guarantee. Visit GoFundMe.com today to help make a positive difference in your community. I call that being pleasantly persistent. I do that every Friday. I have my causes that I'm after, and I'm. Some people say be a pain in the ass, but it's better when you say pleasantly persistent, and that is a success formula right there. It has made me so much money because when you are pleasantly persistent, even if I say no to you, it's not no forever, it's no today.
Yeah.
You call me again in 3 weeks, maybe things have changed.
Man.
Call me in 6 months, something changed.
Yeah. My buddy in Arizona is the number one, Michael Donald's the number one, I met him through Bradley. He's the number one door-to-door solar sales guy in the world. The number one. When I heard him get announced at a place we were speaking at, and I went, "You're the number one dude in the world." The number one guy in the world. Like, as soon as he got through speaking, I made a beeline. I said, "You're the number one guy in the world?" He's like, "Yeah, man, I'm the number one dude." He's got all these door-to-door door knocker man of the year awards, and Maxwell speaking, and Ed Milet and Brad speaking all these events, and I'm like, dude, I had him on my podcast, and he said it blew me away. Well, and I've had a lot of amazing guests on my podcast. But this one line, I was like, he said, "Ken, every day before I go knock on doors, I feel like I got to throw up in the bushes." I'm like, what? Dude, you're the number. It's like Michael Jordan saying, "I'm scared to take the shot." I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, dude, I have to get a few no's before the nervous feeling goes away.
Yeah.
And the problem is we don't like hearing no. We don't like doing the work. And the reality of it is you're putting an offer out there. Just because they say no doesn't mean, number one, they don't like you. Doesn't mean they think less of you, or doesn't mean they're not going to use you in the future. But if you make that about relationship and how can I add value to you, you know what they're going to do? And it's top of mind marketing, especially when it comes to real estate. If you can make that about them and you adding value to them, the next time they come around, they're going to do something. You know what? They're going to use you. Mm-hmm. And I tell my team, Now is a time for you to build your base of clientele, because you're going to weed out all these little real estate agents and all the people that are just wanting to do this because it's fun and easy. And, any soccer mom can make, hope I don't offend soccer moms, any soccer mom can go out and make $100,000 a year.
Yeah.
And it's just not that way anymore. So now you got to put the work in. But when the market rebounds in the next 18 to 24 months, it's cyclical. It's been this way for 40 years, 50 years. Once the market starts to rebound, now you're going to have a pool and a base of clients. It's going to be a lot larger than you had before, and you can make more money than you ever made before.
So I have two final questions on real estate. One, something you just said. So you think we're in about 18 to 24 months, the market will?
That's the normal cycle. Because, we've been down for 6 months, 6 to 8 months.
And it's usually 3 years down.
A couple years down.
And then
2 to 3 years down.
Because we've been in a decade of up.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
2011, I guess, 2011. So that was 3 years? It was 08, 09, so 2.5, 3 years. It was down. And it was only down. The biggest wealth transfers in history take place during those recessions.
Yeah.
Watch what guys like you, guys like Brad, guys like Grant, watch guys who have money, guys like Vic Keller, watch what they're doing and watch how they invest and just follow what they do. Who is it? Brandon Dawson from Carlin Ventures says model, mimic, and master. Brad Lee always says success leaves clues. Just follow what they're doing.
Yep.
It's not rocket science.
Well, that's the purpose of the show. Success formulas. That's what I'm here to learn from you.
Yeah.
I want to steal all that knowledge. My final question on real estate.
Yeah.
What do you think interest rates do in the next 12 to 18 months? Especially being on the broker side, you must have.
Yeah. I don't do it. Obviously, I'm not a mortgage broker anymore. I'm just a real estate guy.
You have that knowledge.
Yeah.
You're the best expert in the room.
Yeah. So what they've done is they keep having to raise the interest rate, the feds, the prime, because of inflation, because we just printed a bunch of money for no reason, which that's both parties' fault. I don't care what you say or who you vote for, which aisle you fall on. We keep making dumb decisions. You make dumb decisions, you win. You make stupid decisions, you get stupid prizes. But I think they're. I don't know that they're not going to go crazy. I don't think. We're in the sixes, like mid to high sixes right now on 30-year fixed rates. I believe is where they're at least the last time I talked to one of my mortgage broker buddies. They may go up a little bit, but they're gonna. I don't know that we'll ever see 2 3/4,
right,
or 3.
I have a vacation house in Big Bear. It's 2.75% interest rate on a second home.
That's insane. That's crazy.
It's free.
Yeah.
It's literally free money.
Boy, if you want to get on a political soapbox real quick, you can talk about what they just did last week.
What they did
where
last
people
week?
over 720 scores. If you're over 700 or over 720, they're actually going to dock you a percent. You're going to pay a loan fee of a percentage. And if you're under 640, you actually get a rebate.
Well, hold on.
Of a percentage.
I asked a friend of mine this because I read that.
Yeah.
And he said the way we're reading it, the way you just articulated it, is not actually an accurate thing.
Okay, well, that may not be right.
So let me
be correct.
And I'm just repeating.
Yeah.
So this is not Jeff Fenster knowledge. I'm regurgitating.
Right.
I may butcher this, and what he told me may be false. But he said if you had a low credit score, you used to always pay a higher premium.
That's exactly right.
You're now paying a lower, higher premium.
Okay.
It's going down a little bit. They're making it not as painful.
Gotcha.
If you're in that upper score, you just have you're paying the range of that penalty just got spread larger. So hypothetically, let's say if you have below a 700, it's 2%.
Right.
2% punishment. And if you're above 700, there was no punishment.
Gotcha.
Now it's below 600 is like 1.8% punishment, and 700 to 750 is a 0.25% punishment.
Yeah, here's a success story.
I don't know if that's true.
Here's a success story or a success formula. Don't reward people who don't get shit done.
Yes.
Don't reward people who don't want to work for it. You don't do that with your kids.
True.
I just had Scott Donnell. You got to connect with Scott.
I would love to meet
He's brilliant. He's exited a couple companies for $100 million plus, and he just launched Gravy Stack.
Gravy Stack.
It's a banking app and he hired the number one, I guess, Japanese guy to gamify banking for children, teenagers, and now adults are even using it. Just dropped his book. I think it's going to be on New York Times bestseller this week.
I'll pick up a copy.
I had him on my. He actually came on my Wednesday night community call, and because he's part of my mastermind, and taught. In this app that he's got, they're looking at $1 billion valuation within 2 years. And literally, what he talked about was he said on my podcast or on my call, I come from 4 generations of entrepreneurs, and he goes, every generation, my great grandparents didn't pass money down; they gave it to the widows and the poor. What they taught down, what they transferred down to every generation was the ability and the understanding of value creation. I create value everywhere I go. He goes, with my kids, they create value everywhere they go. And this app it's absolutely unbelievable. And it's not just, you don't reward them just to reward them, but you go create value. That's what we talked about earlier off air. Mm-hmm. You create value. You help enough people get what they want. You help people become the best version of themselves. Dude, you're going to have everything you want.
And more. You're going to have things you don't even realize you want.
And the fulfillment. You can't put a price tag. I don't care how much money you have, the commas and zeros in your bank account, the watch, the car, the house, the plane, the this, that, the other, none of that can equal when you lay your head down on a pillow at nighttime and you know you live today and you know, dude, Jeff Fenster is my friend. Dude, Dave Meltzer is my friend. Like if I need Sharon Lecter, I just texted Sharon last week. If I need Sharon, because I want her to come on one of my Think and Grow Rich calls we're doing in June and July. She's like, let me know when I'm on. Like, man, I get to do this and then use those relationships and connect them with people to make an impact and help people become the best version of themselves. Are you kidding me? Mm-hmm. I get to do this. This is what, and I get to make great money and hang out and go to San Diego and Calabasas and do all these things. Yeah. When you lay your head down at night and you can experience that level of fulfillment, nothing touches it.
I mean, you just gave me goosebumps.
So I got to preach on me. It is Sunday.
I mean, I appreciate it because I want to now pivot a little bit to GSD.
Yeah.
Give me the thesis.
Helping business leaders build confidence, gain clarity, and create community.
And more specifically, why Grow, Stack, Drive? Why those three specific words?
Well, so this is a long story that really doesn't really have a great answer. So in February, March of 2020, right before COVID hit, I was going to do a conference in Atlanta. I sat with my team, about 6 or 7 of us, all my guys, and we wrote on these big Post-it notes. Each of us had our own Post-it note. We wrote down like 25 of our favorite adjectives. And so then each of us had to whittle it down to 3. And so we've got all the papers with circles on it, and we went around the room. We picked out the ones we liked. We put them on separate, and Grow, Stack, and Drive were 3 of them. That was going to be the name of our conference. I had David Pollock, my good friend from College Game Day, coming in. He lives in Athens, where you're at. He's a UGA legend. I had Davey coming in, John Maxwell. We're going to do this. Well, then a week and a half later, COVID hits. Everything shut down. We were doing it at the Maxwell Leadership Institute in Sugar Hill, right there in Gwinnett County in Atlanta, is where my conference is going to be, the first one. And so we called it Grow, Stack, Drive was the name of the conference. COVID hit. We're like, oh, man, the whole world's shutting down. We need to do something now. So I did 2 free webinars, or 3 weeks in a row. I did webinars and I just brought people that I knew in to help people with EIDL loans and all the paycheck, all the stuff that was happening that they were doing. I brought them in and said, okay, by the way, we're going to launch a coaching community next week. It's 12 weeks. I think it was $399. And now my community for a year is $6,000. Yep. It's $399, $397. We're going to do this. And what are we going to call it? We're going to call it, well, we got Grow, Stack, Drive. We've already come up. That's what we're going to call it. That's where Grow, Stack, Drive came from.
I mean, I don't think that's a stupid answer. I think that's an amazing answer because what you did, right, is you guys identified those adjectives that mattered, that connected to an emotion inside of you. Yeah. Because I love it.
Yeah.
When you think about those 3 words, we all need those.
Yeah.
We need to grow everything in our lives. Mm-hmm. When you start doing that, then you start win stacking and stack them on top of each other and drive forward.
Yeah.
I love it. And so coaching clients of yours, what is not what your goal is, because your goal is to help them, obviously. But what do you think the goal of most of your students is when they first come in? Say I'm a student. I sign up. You're my new coach. I'm assuming you asked me what my goals are. What's the number one goal you hear from the majority of your students?
It's always revenue. It's almost always revenue tied. And every call we get in, we do a Monday morning call called Kickstart Your Week at 8 a.m. Eastern, Wednesday PM call at 8 p.m. That's about an hour and 15 minutes. We theme those out every month. I have guests come on all the time. Like this month, we're doing Confidence. My good friend Sean Swarner, who lives in Castle Rock, who went with me to the Undercover Billionaire Boot Camp. He's the only man in history to do the Explorer's Grand Slam. He climbed the highest peak of all 7 continents, including Everest. Ski to the North Pole and the South Pole. They just did a hour-long documentary on Amazon Prime called True North. He's the only man in the history of the world to do it with 1 lung. 2 cancer diagnoses at 14, terminal. 16, a different kind of cancer. At 16, they said you got 2 weeks left to live. and they took one of your lungs out at 16 years old, and he did the Explorers Grand Slam.
How did he wait?
It is.
Am I going to learn this by watching?
It is. The story is, if you watch True North on Amazon Prime, it's unbelievable.
I'm going to watch it today.
Dude, it is. You'll get some Kleenex because you're going to cry.
Yeah.
And he does it for cancer survivors. Like when he went to the top of Everest, he's got a flag that he takes with him with all these cancer survivors or people that have lost people to cancer, and he mounted it on the top of Everest. Got on a satellite phone and called his mom and said, "Mom, I'm on the top of the world."
Wow.
So how do we do what we do? I have guys like that hop on my call and we talk about how to build confidence this month. And I got him. Dude, the friends I have it's insane. Mm-hmm. I did my whole talk at Undercover Billionaire Bootcamp, and I brought him up on stage. I said, "Guys, listen, I brought an object lesson with me today," and I brought him up and I said, "Sean, tell everybody who you are." And they're like, "Are you kidding me? Like these guys just hang out with you everywhere you go?" And I'm like, "Yeah." Do you think I look at a guy like Sean and I think, man, it's gonna be hard for us to do 500 or 1,000 people at our Create Conference this year? Are you freaking kidding me? He told me last week, he was like, "Dude, I told my wife I want to do Everest with no oxygen." I'm like, "Bro, you have one lung." I'm like, "Dude, you have one lung." He's like, "I know, man. Can you imagine how awesome that would be to be able to do that?" I'm like, okay, I do not think big enough. But yeah, but that's what we do. And it's always revenue. We always kick our call off with revenue goals. Tell me a revenue wins. Where did you win this week in revenue? But what happens is there's a transition to where when people come in, and I see it throughout all the different coaching circles now, because our thing has been, I pastored for 15 years. Dude, I'm going to help you build community and build relationships. They're going to help you become the best man and the best version of who you are. So you don't have to worry if you go out and make $5 million, you're not going to lose your family.
Yep.
You're not going to worry about making dumb decisions. They're going to cost you everything. Dude, I could line them up. So we share that. But what happens is there's always a transition to where they go from revenue goals. And I keep the revenue right in front of everybody all the time. Because that really is, I can't help people. I can't help a Waffle House waitress, or I can't give to this cause, or I can't give to this thing if I don't have enough money to pay my light bill and I'm worried about how I'm going to send my kids to college. But I see them transition into understanding the importance of relationships and community. And when they do that, and that light bulb, that aha moment kicks in, it's a game changer for them.
I can see it lights you up too.
Yeah, it does.
I mean, of all the things you just said, when you just said that, I saw the light bulb go with you. It fires you up.
Yeah, it does.
And your podcast, As a Leader Grows. First of all, the name's amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
I got to be a guest on that show. That was
Yes,
our first time we got to meet. How many episodes have you done now?
Oh, I have no idea, dude.
You do one a week, right?
2 a week. So I do a coaching with Ken every Monday morning that I drop. It's just me in my mind.
But I mean, when you have a guest, one a week.
Yeah, I do a guest. And then I drop a guest every Wednesday.
Every Wednesday. Yeah. You've been doing it for how many years?
2.5, 3. So there's several hundred episodes I've got. Yeah.
Being on this side of the table is a different side of the table.
Yeah. And I just dropped one with my good friend Alex Morton. Yeah. And Alex and I got connected through Gary Brecka. We just got connected. I text him. And dude, now we've become like close. Dude, who do you need to know? And I'm sending him people. Alex, you need to know this guy. Boom, and I'm connecting them.
Yep.
Yeah.
So what is the big goal? What is your BHAG this year?
Well, I've got 50, 100, 500, and 1,000. And if we can hit those, and it's 5.192 million in revenue, but if we can,
that's a goal. But what's your BHAG? Because I know
I'm getting married. I'm getting married 11/11.
Are you?
Yes, I am.
Hey.
I'm getting married 11/11. Thanks, bro. Yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah, so that's super.
Congratulations.
That's super cool, and a whole story for a whole crazy story for another day. Just on my journey, I actually had my therapist at Create this year, and I had Lauren get up. She's a somatic therapist.
What does that mean, somatic? Therapist?
She teaches you how to control your central nervous system. So when you've had trauma in the past, she teaches you how to. So a year ago, we don't have a ton of time. I'll give you this really, really quick. A year ago, I walked in.
Give me the meat, though.
I walk into my therapist in Birmingham, Alabama. Maxine, she's about a 60-year-old black lady. I tell everybody she's a mild version of Medea. She's hilarious. Every time I walk in, she's like, "Honey, you praying in the Spirit this week? How you and Jesus doing?" I'm like, "I'm doing good, Maxine. We're good." And I walk in the very first time. I walk in her office, and she looks at me, and she goes, "Tell me your story." And I said, "I was born in Detroit. 8 years old, my parents got divorced, 2nd grade. 6th grade, my mom moved us to Georgia. From 6th grade to my senior year of high school, I moved to my dad's 6 different times. I went to 12 schools, and I went to 6 different high schools." She's writing in her little therapist notebook, and she looks up, and she goes, "Why in the world would you want to move so many times?" What made you want to do that? And I told her, I said, Maxine, I didn't have a choice. I said, every time I got in trouble, my mom would say, go pack a bag. And I had 24 to 48 hours. I was on a bus plane, or my dad was on the way to pick me up from Michigan. And she wrote in her journal for just a second. And then she asked me this question, second biggest aha moment of my life outside of August of 93 when I gave my life to Christ. She said, how do you think that's had an impact on the women who are supposed to love and protect you your whole life? And I lost it. And I went back in my mind 3 weeks earlier. I was dating a girl in San Francisco that I loved dearly. And she picked me up at the airport. We didn't even make it out of San Francisco. And she said something to me. I got triggered. I said, pull the car over. I got my bag and I left. And here was a 53-year-old man living out the trauma of a 13-year-old boy. Except now you're not going to tell me to leave. I'm packing my bag and I'm leaving before you tell me. And so I spent a year walking through with 2 different therapists, walking through that trauma I went through as a kid, reading books. Gabby Bernstein's book, my good friend G.S. Youngblood's book on the masculine relationship. Reading books and really becoming the best version of who Ken is. And the moment I did, and the moment I walked through these things, and I know it sounds goofy, literally walked right into, and for the first time in 30 years, wasn't looking for a relationship, walked right into a woman. And I was like, it's so crazy, dude. We got introduced by a mutual friend at an event in Cabo. The second or third day, I'm telling her that story, and I'm talking about my therapist, Lauren, who lives in Nashville, where she's from. The third or fourth day, I let her read this paper I wrote on my ideal partner. Starts with Proverbs 31 woman and all these different characteristics of a woman. She looks at me and she goes, I'm all these things. I said, okay. I said, okay. The next day she goes, by the way, what's your therapist's last name? I said, Zoller. She goes, Lauren's also my therapist. She said, I went through her whole, I know, bro. I was like, you got to be kidding me. We're sitting there in Cabo. I take a picture of us and I send it to Lauren, who speaks at my conference. And Lauren goes, shut up. And I'm like, you can't make it up. And she didn't come around until I did the work. I didn't come around for her until she did the work. And literally in weeks, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the woman I'm going to marry. And I told her, I said, you know, I want to marry you. She said, yeah. She said, God told me you were going to ask. And when you asked to say yes, I said, well, I'm asking. So yeah, so I'm getting married at 11:11. How's that for a BHAG?
That's a great BHAG.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah. Unbelievable, dude. It has been an unbelievable 2.5, 3 years. God is so good. The people I get to spend time with, dude, are unbelievable.
So let's end with,
Yeah.
do you have clearly defined success formula or core values?
Yes.
What are they?
Core 5. My core 5 are faith, health, relationship, business, and finances. And I tell everybody, faith, health, and relationships, that's my morning routine. As soon as I get up in the morning, I grab my phone. I did it this morning. Go straight to my worship song. I post it on Instagram.
You do, because I always like to. The ones I always give the.
I always do it.
Yeah.
The hands raised. The hand raising.
The slider.
Yep. I do the slide, and so I do that. I go straight to my YouVersion Bible app, and I think we just finished up something in the book of Matthew today. As soon as I'm done, that goes straight to my 6 guys, and it goes straight to my 14-year-old. And so I send that to them, and then it's faith, health. I'm in the gym I've lost 82 pounds in 3 years. Come on, baby. I mean, you look good. As soon as I walked in, I'm like, dude, Jeff,
small shirts.
Yeah, that's bullshit. But anyway, you may want to beat that out.
Oh, we're good.
Small shirts. No, dude, you've been putting in work. And so faith, health, and then it's relationships. I'm texting people. I'm involved in people's lives before 7 a.m., adding value. Faith, health, relationships, business, and finances. And then, man, once work starts, it's relationship, business, and finances the rest of the day. And I color code my calendar, and I know exactly what I'm doing every single day. And so that's it, man, our core 5. And so every time we do a conference, every time I do a mastermind, we start with faith and we work all the way through the core 5 to the end of the conference or the mastermind.
And, you know, I haven't heard it the way you just said it, because I'm thinking about, you know, my success formula, my 5 core values, and they're make friends, have fun. Number 3 is take immediate decisive action. Number 4 is Kaizen, to get 1% better every day. And number 5 is be change ready. And I'm trying to think how I would apply those to those 5 of yours. And I can see a bunch of them in there. I don't think I have them. I don't have a faith one. I struggle with that.
Yeah, it's okay. And
that's why I asked you that question at the beginning. I'm not a religious guy.
Yeah. Neither am I.
I've never had the feeling that I hear so much of other people have had. I've never had that connection. And this isn't a religious show or a faith show, but faith is when you don't have it, or you haven't had that feeling, or you haven't really been able to connect in some bigger way, it's kind of hard to understand, right?
Yeah.
So that's the one.
It's like trying to explain to somebody what it feels like to make $1 million and they've never made $1 million. You can't explain it. Or any kind
it's more quantifiable.
Yes,
I would say it's
yes.
more like love.
Yeah. Yes, that's
You've
right.
never
That's
been
right.
in love before, because love will make you do a whole lot of
Crazy
things
things.
based on
Yes, it will.
it's a version of faith, isn't it?
Yes, it is, my friend.
Yes, it is. But Ken, dude, thank you so much for
you're
coming, man. I mean, honestly, like I said to you on the phone, I don't know, 2-3 months ago, I said, whatever you can come, I want you out here. And you said, Jeff, I'll be there, and you're a man of your word. And it's been a friendship I've been so honored and privileged to have with you over the last 3 years. Like I said, I've spoken at hundreds of conferences and hundreds of events, and that small, intimate event of yours, that early event when I got to spend time with you and Carlos and Tori.
Tori Cruz.
And just the other bunch of great people that were there. It's rare. Unfortunately, it's rare. Mm-hmm. But that day I left and I'm like, I love Ken. I want to know more of Ken. I want to be around Ken. So for those listening, Ken is so clear on his mission. GSD is something that you should all look at. Not just because Ken's going to add a ton of value and make you more successful and help you gain clarity, build confidence, and create a community, but because it's also be around successful people. That exposure is going to expand your capability, and you're going to be a better version of yourself. And Ken's on a mission to help 1 million people, and I love it.
Love it, man. Appreciate
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for listening. If you're looking to level up your relationship capital game, then take a minute and text the word Jeff to 33777 for a free copy of my Network to Millions playbook. The link will also be provided in the show notes below. See you guys next time.